Back in Kelly Meyer, who was live in that room as it unfolded. Kelly, what can you tell us? What are you learning?
Hey, so we are still inside the room. They've kind of opened up the doors for people to leave, but they keep saying that they're going to restart the dinner. We still don't know exactly how everybody is. I see a lot of White House staff around here on their phones. And I saw Kevin Hassett here talking with someone. I know that the Treasury Secretary and the Secretary of War were escorted out immediately. I have video of that, of them leaving, but we don't exactly know what the status of everyone is at this moment, at least for the people inside this room. I'm still inside the room where the dinner happens, and there's still, hundreds of people inside this area kind of just looking at each other and wondering what just happened and trying to figure out how this happened.
Yeah, and Kelly, we're watching, by the way, just so everyone knows, these are the first close-up photos we're getting of Trump, of the president being rushed off the stage in that folded over sort of hunched posture, getting him off the stage as quickly as possible. Kelly, I actually want to play the audio one more time in that video of those moments unfolding, and then I want to ask you what it was like to be in the room. Let's watch that together. It sounds like those 5 bangs that we hear. Kelly, what did you hear? And walk us through what this was like. I can only imagine. And also, I appreciate what this must be like for you in this moment. I would be very shaken by what has just happened tonight.
Yeah. Sorry, we're all kind of still trying to figure out where some folks are and talking with White House staff about, many of them were guests, and then we had actually a representative as well as a senator at our table, and they were under the table immediately, and they stayed there for a while. Even as we kind of got back up after we realized we could stand up again, they were still under the table, and it was just, something that you don't expect to see.
Yeah, of course.
Initially, we were sitting at the table waiting for the dinner to really kind of kick off, and that's when we heard this pow, pow, pow noise, and everybody just immediately went under the table. The chairs pushed out, everything on the table spilled over, and everybody just was under the tables in this room, just hundreds of people inside here. So it was definitely something that, no one really expected, and we are just waiting to hear more. We're watching and see. They keep saying the dinner is going to resume, but we don't know exactly, the status of, members of the administration, the president, the first lady escorted off stage, as well as the vice president. So we're still waiting to gather some details. We're out to our Secret Service sources, as well as talking with people in the room here about what exactly happened.
Yeah, and in that video, we can clearly hear it sounds like 5 sort of bangs. What was it like to hear that for you? Where were you in the room, and from where did that sound seem to come from? Did it seem like it was coming from inside or outside of the room?
So for us, at least from what we heard, our table was on the lower level, but towards the back of the room by the back doors. So to us, it looked like it was like by the back doors where the shots came from. So that's what we felt at first. But then we are hearing things that it could have been in that lobby area, and then the sound just echoed. But we're not quite sure exactly whether or not that suspect was just taken out or if the shots came from that area. I'm just not sure, but we continue to see people kind of streaming out of the room, leaving this event, and just kind of everybody just looking at each other like, what just happened?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So you were actually near the back by those doors. How loud was that? And did it seem like it was from outside of the doors and more in sort of the lobby area?
It felt loud. Like it felt to me like it was like just outside of the doors. So that was my immediate thought. but we don't know if it was pretty loud.
Yeah, Kelly, talk to me about security tonight. Can just anyone walk into the lobby, or at what point are there security checks, and what kinds of security checks were there tonight?
There's a lot of security, and I noticed that there was more security here than normal because I've been here the last couple of years when President Trump wasn't speaking, so there was much more security than normal. Areas that you could go to before you couldn't go to. You're always going through the kind of airport type security before you even come to the dinner. There were protests outside of the hotel earlier.
And what were they mainly protesting, Kelly, from what you could see?
They were protesting the dinner itself, and the president himself. I'm sorry, I just see people running this way, so I'm just going to try to follow and see where people are going if something is going on. But hold on one second.
No, it's okay, Kelly, and stand by with us. Do what you need to do, but
I turned my back, and there was an officer with a long rifle pointed in the direction of our table. And I'm sure that we have this video. There were officers every couple of feet with their rifles pointed out towards the crowd. That is not something that happens unless there is an extreme threat to the life of the president or the life of the vice president. It is very, very similar to what we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania. And honestly, because the cell signal is so jammed right now, it's either because there are some in this ballroom, or the law enforcement folks in D.C. have the ability to jam us. There's like no cell signal getting. I'm actually seeing the video. I'm looking at it right now on a little bit of a delay on our photographer, one of our photographer Brett's cell phone. It's kind of freezing up, but that is very similar to the response in Butler.
We are now getting word that the President of the United States, as Chanley and I were discussing a few moments ago, will in fact make his way back to the stage at the Hilton there. And that is not a surprise. For those of us who know him, who've been around him, he seems like the kind of person who would say, there's no way I'm not going to finish this show if at all possible. And that's the word we are getting.
That was police rushing towards the White House Correspondents' Dinner where Trump was. After multiple shots were fired in the vicinity of the event, you can see that Secret Service rushed Trump out of the building. Listen to what Carolyn Levitt said moments before.
This speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room.